All right, what's going on, people? It's Winslow. If you're seeing this, that means my new tune, Jazz Hands, is out now on the Sofa King 6 Part 1 compilation on Sofa Sound. And you came here to learn a bit about how it was made. I wanna have like a really, big dramatic story about like it came together like this. And it's just like I was messing around one night, as we do. The right parts came together, headaches were had, tears were cried, joy and pain, sunshine and rain, all that good stuff. And then some years, working on it some more is this too. So we're going to talk about the idea behind it, just so like there's a little bit of context into why it is what it is. Then we'll dive into the production side, sort of break everything down. Not too granular, but just so you get an idea of how all the pieces fit together. Because if you're like me, you're curious about that kind of stuff. You might learn something, you might see something that's done really inefficiently, but sounds good. We all have different ways of working. This is how I work. Cool. So a little bit about the tune. The name has no real meaning. It came way later. After I found the sample that talks about jazz and weapons and all that stuff. You know what it sounds like. I like using jazz as a weapon. But basically the idea is like bringing my sound, which has always been sort of fun, lighthearted, still full of swing, full of funk. But I wanted to try and sort of see what I could do for that. So funny enough, this tune was made with the idea of like, what would Winslow Sofa sound like? It sounds like jazz hands. And the more broader idea of the tune is just like beating drums, basically like relentless beating drums. That's why, for the most part, there's nothing happening in this tune but a drum break and an 808 bass line that's basically playing the same note over and over and over. But it's about how you do it. It's the simplest ideas and it's little variations. Any idea can be pulled off if you figure out how to pull it off well. There's a whole lot of things in here that by themselves don't make sense. Sonically could be better, could be written a different way, could be whatever. But like, because I figured out a way to place every single part together in a way that works, to me, maybe not to you, Chuckle Brothers shout out. That's why the song sounds how it is. There's a bit of tech step in there, there's a bit of liquid funk, there's a bit of jungle, there's a bit of 90s hip hop, which is really my thing and like sonically what I try and get across. The funk is always present. It's finding all these little bits and finding ways to put them together in a way that sounds good. Anyway, that's sort of it. Just like, if you don't think of anything else, beating the hell out of some drums, bass line. That's it. So now we're in the DAW. Let's talk about how the sauce was actually made. But in my case, this is a burrito because you have all these different parts and then you wrap it up and that's how it works. Burrito style. If you don't take anything else, burrito, just tell them how it's made. My DAW of choice is Studio One. There's like 5 of us. I know y'all probably use Ableton or something else. There's nothing specific to any DAW that I'm doing in here. Like all this stuff, you can do anything else. Everything's transferable. So if you have a question about how I'm doing something that you can't see like a direct parallel between here and your DAW, shoot me a message, comment something. I'm down to help. But yeah, if you don't know the tune, I didn't say play it. If you don't know the tune, I play a little bit of it.
I mean, only jazz, and they hate it, but it makes me smile, and yeah, I like using jazz as a weapon.
Yeah, that's it. All right. So like I told you, drum break and relentless 808 bass. And that's about it. All right. So just so you visually know what's happening, drums blue on the top, main stuff here, some extra stuff there, all bust together and stuff. We'll talk about that later. This bass is green part. There's only two parts of the bass. There's the 808 and there's the distorted stuff later on. We have this like melodic synth pads types bus, was all the melodic stuff is in, the drones, the siren kind of thing. There's some choir bits in there. Then we have some effects down here, light blue, and then the vocals in yellow. This is usually how my projects look. This is pretty bare bones simply because that's what this is what the song called for. So yeah, let's talk about these drums. So I'm going to solo these drums and I'm going to let you hear them. Yeah, pretty simple. Basically everything is around this drum break right here. So this main drum break is basically me finding a loop. I think like some kind of live drum loop. That's usually how it starts. Something that already has a feel, a good groove, good sound to it. And then taking it apart, sort of usually like taking the kick out, taking the snare or something, any other little bits, and then trying to get as much as I can out of them. So like in this case, I'll show you the break before I started, working on it. But I took the kick out, layered it with some other bits, gave it some more character, gave it some tonal qualities that were already in there, but then I just sort of enhanced them a bit more, and you'll see there's a couple different versions of the kick. The snare taken out, layered with some clap and some other stuff, just like big, crusty, sort of whipped kind of sound of like early liquid funk in a way, because there's not really like a straight up snare in this. And then the shuffles and stuff is just from the same break, and yeah, a little bit here and there. Nothing crazy, no synthesized, this or that. Just some careful layering, careful sample selection for either texture or tone or punch or some kind of character. What's the drum break called? Let's see if we can hear what it sounds like with nothing. So that's the original break, and then it sounds like. Okay, if we go here, we have the kick. That's just a clean kick. We have a layer for the kick that gives it a little bit more tone. You have the shovels. Then we have clap. And you can hear the snare from the original loop in this clap if you listen close enough. But then you hear like all the other bits I added. You can see like what I did. So here's the kick from the loop. Right? Add a little top to it, which is basically a consistent, stronger transient. And what you get, without any transient added, low end, not a lot, even rolled off a bit of that attack, added that top transient to it from another kick sample I've made. Just gives a lot more punch. Put it all together, some compression, saturation, clipping, all that good stuff. That's how that happened. So if you want to know a bit more about how I layer like samples and stuff to get this character, YouTube at Winslow XYZ, search me, or Winslow XYZ on Patreon. I said both Z's. Crazy, right? And that's where you'll find all the good stuff. Loads of videos like this, by the way. Yeah, clap, same thing. Does this sound any good? Yeah, that's it. So we got snare from the main break I showed you before. We got another snare drum. This is from a snare sample pack I made years ago from like a live snare. A bit of transient, bit of tone, bit of air. Really distorted clap from, I think it's a Whiny sample pack from some years ago. Put it all together, what do you get? That's it. Same sort of thing. Some EQ, some saturation, clipping. I just want character. That's the most important thing. This clearly isn't like a super clean sound. It's got character. It's not bad, but it's not necessarily hi-fi. The punch is there, the texture is there. That adds to the vibe. This is not a clean song. This is maybe the sort of, I don't know, aesthetically dirtiest production I've ever made. Just because, like, I threw all that out the window for once. Which is funny because, like, Sofa Sound is known for just having the crispiest production. But, like, shout out DLR for trusting in the boy. Yeah. So, remember, all that happens and you get this drum groove. Now, there are a couple, like, fills and stuff happening, which is just manipulating audio. So in this case, we have the clap. All I did was take that same clap and I stretched it. That's it. It's like, Yeah, stretched and without the clap layer. So I might have made a different bounced version without a certain layer in it. Yeah, there's a lot of that. Something really important though is the tone in this kick. All right, so like our main kick sample sounds like, you can hear there's a little bit of like a dum 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 dum, like that sort of sound. And what this extra layer does is me just isolate it. So if I take all the plugins off and play this like kick tone channel, that's the same kick, just sort of like band pass. So highs wrote off, lows wrote off, just to find that tone. And then what do? We squash the hell out of it. Make sure we isolate it. So this little harmonic right here, this little tone comes out. Play it with the kick. It gives a little bit extra. It's like a sort of like a bongo. It was already in the break, the one we manipulated from the beginning, but I'm sort of bringing it out just a little bit more. This can introduce like phase and stuff, but dirty production, I didn't care about that. I got the sound I wanted. And now that's just one. So when we get to like the more foghorn kind of part, I make it a bit cleaner with a second tone. So if you're listening to it and you go, and that's the same thing, you're basically right. But in this case over here is much louder and there's a lot more stereo information. So because there's nothing else really happening other than this drum break and this 808 bass, I have a bit more room to bring out that tone, make it more of a focus. It adds a bit more drive and more urgency. But it also adds a bit of stereo information that I only work in headphones, so I like how that sounds. But it's not too much to where like it cancels out if you listen to mono or play it out live. But it adds a bit of variation. So I'm sort of creating dynamics through layers. And when I go to the second tone, it's straight down the middle mono. There's a little bit of stereo fuzz in it, but like not enough is going to poke through the mix. It's quieter and it's mono, which helps it cut straight through. Because what else is happening in this section? This. And I don't need that as much, but I don't want to completely get rid of it because when I'm listening to it, I can hear if it's not there, and that tone really ties a room together, such as Great Rugs. If you catch all these references, stick them in the comments. So what we get is kick here, big sound, smaller sound. So we go from a bit of room, bit of stereo, bit of something, and then we just collapse it, make it narrow, make it mono-ish. And that helps give space in the mix. It helps cut through. It adds a different character, even though you're probably not hearing that when you're listening to it, but I can guarantee you feel it. Okay, a lot of these things are subtle bits here and there that aren't necessarily like, hey, look at me. But if they're not in the room, you realize some's not in the room. You know what I mean? It's felt rather than heard. That's me tricking myself into saying this is all worth it. Yeah, the rest is just like loops past that, like your standard. There's a little late kick layer that happens on like the one. The funk is all about the one. You know what I mean? Some shakers, stereo, just get it out of the way. A lot of things are happening down the middle. Tambourine. A really sort of, you know, I was about to say like senile, like bongos, but like on their own don't really work. Play with a drum break. They pop out just enough. It just adds a bit more tone, those sort of mid harmonic-y kind of things, just like drums. I just want more drums. Drums are important. So this combined with like the tone of the kick just adds a bit more character to the drums that weren't there already. The name of the game is character. That's all it is. Other loops. I love a jungle tune that just sort of like always sort of has that like tambourine just hitting on like quarters, and it just adds so much to it. Like I'm thinking something like Double O, somebody like Double O does it a bunch. It just really adds some air to the room. Other than that, that's the drums. Like everything sort of fits together and is processed a bit. Like do some subtle side chaining on this like loops percussion bus, I call it. They just like make sure there's some room for the kick and like transient and snare to pop through. I just want the right thing to be in the front of the mix and to really poke through. And that's how I do it. Nothing special about that. Yeah, in this intro, I have more of the original break in there. So that's like the original break and snare, but then I have like the better kick in there. The builds and stuff aren't really important, but and that's just the loop you already heard. So if I take all the plugins off, put a little ring mod, some flanging, some filtering, some blah, blah, blah. That's it. And now you know how the drums are made. So now that we made it through the drums, let's talk about bass, which is very, very simple. It's an 808 sample. And that's it. There's like maybe 3. There's one for like the main low end, and then another one that I just distorted the hell out of, old school style. So we got this 808, right? And it's already bounced to audio. I think if I unbounce it, I might ruin this project. That's it. 2 notes. You can see the MIDI down there. It's not doing anything. Every color just means like variation. So this one, it ends differently. Like every little one has a different variation. Nothing crazy, just a little bit of distortion, a little bit of saturation. It's just like your standard like hip hop saturated 808. Find a sample pack, you'll be good. Now we have the Angry Boy. Yeah, I'm gonna see if I can make it back to what it was so I can show you how I did it all. Rendered real-time audio. Okay, so I unbounced it. Here we go. And it is clipping like crazy. I bounced it and then like did some other stuff. But if we listen to it without any plugins, that's it. That's the main sound. Just some 808 samples. That's another one, a little less pushed. And what I did is stack all these plugins on it, and you get this. A lot of air, a lot of all that stuff. So all I'm really doing for this like old school style like distortion is basically distorting the hell out of it. But before that distortion, I'm taking a really narrow peak with an EQ and just sweeping it through the frequencies and seeing what tones come out. Because it's before distortion, it is tamed in a way that post distortion would really kill your ears. But in this case, when you sweep the peak through a distortion, all the harmonics and the effects and the character that comes out, the plugin is reacting to what it's being fed. So like you're going to get a different sound as you like go through it. I'll show you how that's done. I should have, you know what I'm saying. If we go here, this is our little frequency sweep, right? And which EQ is it? It's this one. So I'm taking this really steep notch at 30 dB, and you're going to see what happens when I hit play. So this EQ is the first in the whole chain. And what I probably did was sort of get the bass sound, as in like the starting point of the sound without this EQ. You know, something like that, just push it and then place this EQ at the beginning, make the really, you know, peaky peak, the mountain, and then just sweep through to find out what happened and then automate it. So that's what you're getting here. Like if I go through any of these other plugins, nothing's really happening. Sausage Fattener is like just turn it up. See what happens. Sausagefies it. Another EQ for a bit of mixing. LFO tool I'll go over next because that adds a bit more character to it that you're not hearing. Reverb also to just in there to give it a bit of room sound, but it's pre a couple saturations and another sausage fattener. So I'm also affecting that as well. And all these sort of stacked processes is what's getting you the final sound. But they're in a specific order because everything is sort of reacting to the thing before it, if that makes sense. You got Saturn for some saturation. This again, sort of taming, sort of clipping, EQ for fun. And then track spacer. I'll show you what I'm doing with that in a second. So I talked about LFO tool. If we come over here, and what we get is this sound. Basically, that's how I'm getting the wub, 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 wub. And also, I know you can sort of do this in, it's Xfer, so it's Serum. Like you can do the same envelope things within like Serum or a phase plant or something. But I never use those plugins, even though I have them and bought them on sale for Black Friday, but only looked at them once. And I chose to do it this way. I'm just trying to be honest with you because you know how it is. You buy a plugin and then you still do the thing the old way. But in this case, I'm not getting the envelope before all the plugins I'm stacking on it. I'm getting sort of post-processing part one. So it's giving me a different character than I would if I started off with a sound being like this. It's doing a bit of low passing and like playing with the resonance as well as volume shaping. Yeah, it just gives me a little wobble. And it's more prominent when you get in these other basses, which are more tame. You can kind of hear the harmonic in there, or like the peak doing its thing. Just yeah, that's what's giving it characters, giving it tone. The name of the game is character. Remember that. Yeah, I mean, that's all this really is bringing out character in very simple parts. Nothing here is like science and very, focused and thoughtful. It is just like, does this thing I keep doing give me the sound I want? No, change it, do something else, try it again, wash, rinse, repeat. You know what I mean? And what you get are these sounds. So let me undo this real quick just so we can get the bounced, what I actually started with. There we go. And the final thing is now here, is you get this sound. I am clipping it a bit because otherwise you get a crazy peak. Last thing about this, just because I want that original 808 to still pop through, I have track spacer on here, which is basically like multiband sidechain compression. So I have it only working on the bass. And if I play just the 808 by itself, you'll see why. I just want that to cut through. Because if it doesn't play, then you get all sort of the dirty low end out of this Angie boy. That's what I'm calling it. There's a bit of low end in there, and I even high passed it or shelved it off a bit more. But if I put track spacer in there, it'll take it out with the contour of the 808. So when that sort of dissipates or the tail goes away, a bit more of the low end from the distorted part comes in and it sort of fills that gap, creating more tone, more sound, more information in the low end. So any variation that you hear is that whole process just tweaked a bit more. If you go to like the second drop, you get a more sort of severe sound, which means it's just more, focusing on certain harmonics, pushing them a bit more. So, and then some reverb tricks and stuff, which I didn't bother showing you because it really doesn't matter in this. But here. So with these basses, we talked about sort of all the stages of compression and limiting and saturation. And then I put a reverb behind all of that. This is why it feels like it's breathing, like it's alive. Because when that sound comes in, it takes up the whole space, right? But as soon as it starts to tail off and dissipate, the noise, the reverb, the room comes back and is just under that same amount of compression, but it has room to fight. So it breathes forward, it opens up. That's why when you hear the beginning of the sound, it sounds very narrow. And as the sound goes away, the room comes out and it spreads and it widens. It sounds alive. It sounds good. Character. So, hear it again. See, like as it goes away, room comes back out. That's not automation or anything. It's just compression. That's basically it. So we talked about drums and bass, which is the only stuff really happening. The rest is just sort of adds energy, adds a bit more melodic content, a bit more, forward momentum, stuff like that. And a bit more texture, things here and there, just to bridge the gap between the relentlessness that is the bass and the drums. A couple more interesting things. And that's it. Hope you learned something so far. If you got questions, stick them in the comments wherever you're watching this. I'll get back to them. DM me, emails, all that kind of stuff. I would love to explain things a bit more. Or not explain anything at all. And you tell me what I don't know. All right. So the intro is sort of my favorite part, which is this. So we have some record fuzz, this pad, just pads. This is just a sample. I don't think I didn't do anything to it, but stretch it, add some reverb. My really favorite part is the siren loop. It's just a loop over and over, pans a bit, some reverb, sounds like this with no plugins. Put some stuff on it, sounds like this. You hear a siren, you think urgent, something's happening. All together. Nothing crazy there, just stick them all together and make sure they're in key. We have a choir. Sort of swelling. A little melodic sample in there too. Nothing, it's probably from Splice. It just sounds like I reversed it. It was the right chord. All together. Yep. And then 2 risers. Yeah, it doesn't get more basic than that. It's the same sample, one's pitched down an octave. Made them in silent, probably. This one's, yep. Octave down, sounds like cheeks, but together it sounds pretty good. All together you get the build up. Midway through the first drop, we get sort of a bit of color through another sample. Sounds like this. It's just a sample, cut, pitch, looped. Same thing, pitched up to semitones, then looped. You know what I mean? Simple, but characteristically in the arrangement, you have like all you have is this. For 16 bars, right? And that's very to the point, straight. There's nothing else happening. It's direct, all right? As soon as you get to this part and this little melodic bit kicks in, it adds a different color. It's like this is a different feel. It's like, oh, something's different. You know what I mean? So it sort of takes it to this mellower place. When at first it was really relentless, but now we're adding a different color. Same thing again. So going from no melodic content to a little bit, some just perk your ears up. And it's because of like the sound of it. It's not just like, you know, the raw riser from before is done, no, but it's just like, you know, if you're thinking the jazz theme, you're adding a bit of color, a bit of melancholy maybe, a bit of fuzz, just a bit of texture, a bit of character. You know what I mean? So like, that's all it is. I didn't think of this whole character shtick when I was making it, but like, it's all here. It's all present. You think it's going to be one thing with this like character switch, right? But only 16 bars later, we get. So it's sort of like, it mellows you out. It's smooth. You get sort of the sort of liquid funk sort of drive. And then 16 bars later, we're like, nope, we're going back to that other thing. And we're going to, you know, intensify it. You know what I mean? And so you get the siren immediately, like something's happening. You know what I mean? And then out of nowhere, what happens? So, you know what I mean? Like, it's all sort of there to serve the main idea, which is this is da 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 da, and the drum break. Everything else around it is just moving the song along. You know what I mean? It's adding character, it's adding urgency, it's adding, I don't know, you can probably sort of make up a little narrative to it, but it's just different pockets of feeling that are present throughout a bunch of separate styles of drum and bass and then pulled into this. You know what I mean? If you don't really know how to feel, then you're always sort of interested in it, but only if you're pulled in right. You know what I mean? And just sort of like, I don't know, little clarity or disclaimer. Like, I am thinking about all this stuff when I'm making it, but it's not as like, I'm going to do a little bit of this here and a little bit of this here, and that's really going to make the dance floor go crazy. It's more just like, I want to add a bit more depth than just drum loop bass line. I want to make it interesting to listen to as it is to hear live and dance to it. If you're listening on headphones, you're hearing something. You're hearing a version of it, right? If you listen through like a big system, you're going to hear a different version of it. Both purposes come through in however you listen to it. I do only make music on the headphones. I've had monitors here and there, but because I'm always in headphones, I like to feel immersed in whatever's happening. And even though this is just a straightforward drum and bass, more or less, there's all these little things that are very interesting to listen to from just a sound perspective and how they weave in and out and how they create these moods here and there that just like, they're fleeting. They're little moments here and there. It's not something you necessarily need to do in your music, but I can guarantee you in whatever music you like, there's a little bit of this happening. There's all these micro, I almost said transactions. This is not a video game. All these little micro moments that on their own don't feel all that significant, but when you hear them in a certain order, working a certain way, they do make you feel a certain way. Like, pick any producer you like. Pick any other tune on this compilation, Sofa King 6 Part 1, out now. And it's happening. Like, go listen to it, come back in the comments, tell me everything you heard with these other songs. The goofiest jump up tune sort of has this going on. You know, the most esoteric jungle tune has this stuff going on. It's shown in a different way, but the reason you like it is because of all these little details. So, big tip for budding producers, myself included. It's these little things that make the big picture much stronger. There's no amount of, like, compress your drum loop this way, or like synthesize this, or whatever other piece of advice you'll hear in a forum, like repeated but never explained, is going to really help you so much as learning to just do these little things, add a little bit of interest, these songwriting, these arrangement things that aren't sound design, that aren't technical, but they're the ideas. The ideas, why am I ranting in the middle of this? The ideas are like, what is going to carry your tune? It's the little things. If I strip this all the way back just to the drums, the bass, yeah, it's fine. But it's all these other things, the character, that bring it to what it is. Rant over. All right, so yeah, we got all that. That's all the melodic stuff. There's nothing else happening. Some effects here and there. Yep, just little things here and there, filling up space. Yeah, all these like little fills and stuff work as transition markers. They are usually paired up with some other kind of sound. So if I put like the kick fill, think about, yep, every little piece working together, that stretched clap. That's about it, to be honest. Like there's one little Easter egg in here, which is the lick. If like, I don't know, jazz memes kicking in, but like if you know it, you know it. And that sort of tied it all together. I did a little bit of like looping to make it a pad and like a drone. Distorted, delayed. And then the last bit is the vocal. Don't mess with it.
And sometimes I like to get in the car with my friends and I'll play like not jazz music for like the first little bit. And then out of nowhere, without warning, I change it to only jazz.
Just some effects on it.
Only jazz. And they hate it, but it makes me smile. And yeah, I like using jazz as a weapon.
Once I found that, it was over. The tune was finished. I mean, and then some more mixing and a bunch of other stuff. You know how it goes. But yeah, that's basically the tune. If you want to know where that sample is, you should look at some things I've posted recently that may have a hidden link. Cool. Yeah, that's the tune. That's Jazz Hands. That was 40 minutes of waffling, but I hope you learned something. And if you didn't, hope you were entertained. Keyword, key phrase, character. Find a way to bring it to your music. That's what'll set you apart. The details and stuff is what makes basic ideas better. I could take away so much of this tune and it will still have the same feeling, but all the little bits here and there is what gives it more depth. What makes it more interesting to listen to, in my opinion. Yeah, if you have questions, stick them in the comments or DM me, get at me somehow. And yeah, go check out the compilation. Go get everyone's tunes. Support it on Bandcamp. Labels need it. And run those streams up, all that good stuff. And I will catch you on the next round, if and when that happens. Later.